Hi, and welcome to another episode of Boozing with Boomers. I'm Dave, and I've been on a quest to make a great balanced cocktail, so please hit the subscribe button so we could go on this journey together. Since St. Patrick's Day is tomorrow, I thought I should do some research on a cocktail I've never had before to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, and since I am half Irish and half Scottish, I found a cocktail that allows me to make a cocktail for my heritage. And this cocktail was made by Drambuie for Drambuie. And it's called the Zesty Irishman because it takes Irish whiskey and combines it with their liqueur. So what is Drambuie? Well, it's a whiskey liqueur made of herbs and spices and Scotch whiskey, but also uses honey from the heather, from the flower of the heather of the Scottish moors. So it's got a little bit of sweetness to it, but again, with a lot of those herbs and spices, it's a great digestif. And while it's not an Amaro, like the Amaros I've used in other recipes, earlier recipes, it does kind of follow that same pattern of it's a digestif, comes from a secret recipe, passed down generation to generation, and is still family run today. So where did it come from? Well, it just so happens that if you have an older bottle of Drambuie on the label, so this bottle is a little younger than this bottle, and yet this is still probably 20 years old. And it's a high proof count, so what's great about Drambuie, if you've got it tucked in your bar somewhere, it's not going to go bad because it's 80 proof. So it's not a low proof alcohol that maybe could turn. This baby will be fine. And on the label it says a link with the 45. And why that's important is in 1745 is when the rebellion started in Scotland. And why that's important to Drambuie is around that time, Bonnie Prince Charlie was known to have a personal elixir that he had every single day. And how do we know this is because when he lost at the Battle of Culloden in 1746, he had to flee Scotland, and he actually fled up to the Isle of Skye in the northwestern corner of Scotland, was taken care of by the McKinnon family, and eventually they got him out of Scotland. And in return, he shared his secret recipe for his personal elixir that became extremely popular in the Isle of Skye. So the McKinnon family made large batches, sold it to family and friends. But eventually we're talking a couple generations later, in 1909, the first commercially bottled Drambuie was made in Edinburgh, and that's kind of where the history of where we know it comes to us today. So what's great about this is it plays well with whiskey, obviously, because it's got some Scotch whiskey. It also, we're using a little bit of citrus in this as well, and there's actually a secret ingredient at the end that I was shocked by, and I actually tried to have the recipe without it, and it did not make it as balanced. So we're gonna have Irish whiskey, Drambuie, Cointreau, and lemon juice. So let's get started. As we've learned in earlier episodes, I will start with the least expensive ingredients first. So you're going to have 3/4 of an ounce of fresh lemon juice. We're going to then have 1/4 ounce of Cointreau. Then 3/4 of an ounce of Drambuie. And lastly, 1 ounce of Irish whiskey. Now, of course, I am making cocktails for two. What's good about this cocktail too is it does have a little bit of sweetness, but the sweetness is cut by really the honey, or I'm sorry, the lemon. And the secret ingredient that'll come out, because I didn't have room to put it on the bar, is ginger ale, and you're just going to add a splash of ginger ale at the end. So this is a shake and drink. I am turning the shaker away from you while I'm shaking. And as we know, we're going to sing the ABC song, and I'll be back in about 20 seconds. Y and Z. Whoop. Sometimes it's a little more difficult than others to get it off. So, a couple things here. I'm going to move quickly. I prefer the large ice cube, and you can get the trays anywhere, but you can also just fill it with ice It'll have somewhat of the same effect. So the whole point about putting a big ice cube in a glass is it melts slower. So it's all about the surface area of the ice. If you don't happen to have one, it's okay to put a lot of cubes in your glass for this one. And like I said, we've got a, what fascinated me is I've had this cocktail. Better not forget to pour one for the boomer. I experimented with not using the ginger ale. I never could get it balanced, and there's just something magical, and really it's just a splash, but you could also do it to your tasting. I'll just do much less here. We will also take a lemon twist. Now what I tried to do is you can do a nice little curl. You can rub it around the edge of the glass if you'd like. I attempted to have like these beautiful curls ready to go, and then they all straightened out on me. So unfortunately, it's a lot harder than I thought it would be. Making the curl is not that hard. So if you just put a lemon in the palm of your hand, and you don't want to take too much pith, but what you do is you're going to rotate, so you're kind of going around the lemon from top to bottom. And then if you do it right before you make the cocktail, you give it a little twirl before breaking it, and it will hold its shape better than it's doing now. So I found out as it's drying out, I tried put it in water. A lot of different methods that I read would keep the curl. I think the best thing to do is to do the curl right before you put in the drink. So let's see how I did with the Zesty Irishman. So first of all, I would have never thought of putting these ingredients together. So one of the reasons you go find classic cocktails or cocktails made by somebody, in this case, what I liked about this is it was made by Drambuie. I would have never thought of adding ginger ale as just a little bit. I thought it was just adding bubbles and it wasn't doing anything. But the additional ginger ale really balanced out this cocktail because the lemon, in my opinion, without the ginger ale, was front and center in the cocktail. I brought the lemon juice all the way down to like a 1/4 ounce, and then I thought the Drambuie took over the cocktail. So make it the way it is. I think what's great about topping it off or putting a splash of ginger ale, you can play with that at the end to make it what you want to drink. But this is brilliant. You know, you've got high proof whiskey and a high proof liqueur and a high proof Cointreau. So luckily we've got the lemon juice to kind of bring it down, but this is a powerful drink, but it is absolutely delicious. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please hit the like button. And thank you and cheers. And let's hit the like button, but also please subscribe. See, yeah, not a trained professional. So thank you again. Cheers and slange.